Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Once again, thank you all so much. Really appreciate your joining. We will continue with chapter number 3, and we're going to start with verse number 9 today. Okay. The verse. Yagnarthat karmano nyatra loko yam karma bandhanaha tad artham karma kaunteya mukta sangaha samachara. So this is verse number 9 from the Bhagavad Gita, chapter number 3, which is entitled Karma Yoga. Excuse me. So far, we have in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, we have seen how Arjuna puts a question to Krishna. And Krishna is answering his questions. And in that process, he is explaining to him that how one should perform their activities and not be a pretender. That's what we learned last time. And now he is, even though he has explained to Arjuna to do your prescribed duty, now he's going to elaborate on that. And that's very important because just, saying do your prescribed duty is not sufficient. So the verse today is Yagnarthat karmanonyatra loko yam karma bandhana tad artham karma kantaya mukta sangha samachara. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed. Otherwise, work causes bondage in this material world. Therefore, O son of Kunti, perform your prescribed duties for his satisfaction, and in that way you will always remain free from bondage. So we can see something very, very important to look in this translation. Krishna is making it very, very clear. He says, work done as a sacrifice, he says, has to be performed. He's not giving an option. He's not saying work done as a sacrifice. If you like, you can do it. Or if you feel like, or if you have a desire, no. He's making it very straight and clear. It has to be performed. And the reason he is stressing on has to be performed is because if we don't perform our work as a sacrifice for the Lord, in other words, working for his satisfaction, offering the results of our activities to him for his satisfaction, if we don't do that, he's saying it very clearly, it's going to cause bondage. Now, no one likes to be in bondage in this life, in this material world. Say if our hands were tied, our legs were tied up, it doesn't matter whatever the chain is, whether the chain is made of gold, silver, iron, it doesn't matter. It is bondage. So no one likes to be in bondage. And so here, Krishna is giving us a process by which we can free ourselves from this bondage. We can become liberated, free, no more karma. So this whole chapter, Karma Yoga, is talking about how to lead a karma-free life. And in this verse, today's verse, Krishna is specifying on the word sacrifice. Sacrifice itself, that word, kind of gives a negativity to some people. That sacrifice, I don't want to sacrifice anything. I want to enjoy this life. I don't want to perform any austerities. But here it's clear, sacrifice has to be performed. Now later on, excuse me, he's going to explain how to perform that sacrifice. Now the choice is ours. Do we want to become free of bondage, or we don't mind being in bondage? If we do not mind being in bondage, then this verse doesn't apply to us at all. But if we have a desire to become free, free in the sense, as far as consciousness is concerned, our mind is clear. We understand what our prescribed duty is. We understand how to maintain the body and soul together, because for doing that we have to work. We cannot say, oh, I'm not going to work, I'm going to go to the Himalayan mountains and I'm going to just meditate. No, we need to maintain this body and soul together, and for that we need to work. So the very first word of this verse, yagnartha. Yagna means, that's another name for Lord Vishnu, and Lord Vishnu is another name of Lord Krishna. So yagna, or sacrifice, needs to be performed for the satisfaction of Vishnu or Krishna. That's direct service. Now, in the Vedic literatures, there is a very beautiful verse, and it's in Sanskrit, and I'll give you the translation also. Krite yadhyayato Vishnu tretayam yajato make dvapare paricharyam kalau tad hari kirtan. It means krite in Satya Yuga. So there are 4 yugas or ages. There is Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, Kali Yuga. These are the 4 ages. And each of these ages, just like when we go to the doctor, there are so many patients waiting in the reception area, waiting to see the doctor. Obviously, they are there because they are not feeling well, or the family member is not feeling well. So just because they are in doctor's office doesn't mean they all have the same ailment. They probably have different ailments. Now, if they have different ailments, is the doctor going to give the same prescription for everyone? Obviously not, because that won't be right. Each ailment has a particular medication to cure it. So similarly, in each of these ages, there is a process for self-realization. Krite yad dhyayato Vishnu, dhyayato, dhyan, which is meditation. So in Satya Yuga, the people used to live for 100,000 years. That was their age. That's average age in that yuga, in that age. And the process for self-realization was meditation. Now, in chapter 6 of the Bhagavad Gita, we will learn how one should meditate. One should go to a secluded place, lay kusha grass, special kind of grass, lay deer skin on it, sit erect with eyes half closed, half open, and concentrate the vision on the tip of the nose. So there is a process for meditation, and meditation is helpful for self-realization if it's performed for at least 30,000 years. Do we have that much time? We do not. And so it's not practical to do that kind of meditation for self-realization. Then it says, Tretayam yajato make. In Treta Yuga, the next age, people lived for 10,000 years. That was the average lifespan. And the process mentioned was yagna, that is fire sacrifice. Now, fire sacrifice is performed these days also, but it is not as powerful as it was in those days, in that yuga, in that age, because to become self-realized just by performing fire sacrifices, it has to be performed for thousands of years. And there have to be pure ingredients used. And also the priest or the brahmana who's going to perform that sacrifice has to light that fire just by chanting mantras, not with a lighter or a matchstick. No, it has to be that devotee is so powerful that just by chanting some mantras, the fire, starts in that fire sacrifice. So that also process is not really recommended for this age. Then comes Dwapar Yuga. There people live for almost 1,000 years. And the process was Dwapare Paricharin. There was the process for self-realization was elaborate worship in the temples, which is not practical now. Why? Because to do that elaborate worship, you need to have a lot of gold and silver and diamonds and rubies and gems. Can anyone really afford all that on a daily basis? Not really. So it is mentioned in the very last sentence of this, in the verse, Kalau Tad Hari Kirtan. Kalau means in Kali Yuga, in which we are right now. This age is called Kali Yuga. Tad. Tad means we get the same benefit that people received in those other 3 yugas. Meditation, fire sacrifice, elaborate worship. All those same benefits one will receive in Kali Yuga, Hari Kirtana, by just doing chanting, just mantra meditation. We get the same benefit. That is the process of self-realization in this age. So we have heard in Karma Yoga that every action has a reaction, and that is, we have heard that many times, even in our school, and when we took up science subject, we learned about this law, where every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Yes, but Bhagavad Gita teaches us how we should perform our prescribed duty in such a way that there are no reactions, because the reactions, they bind us. But when we perform our activities based on the instructions from the Bhagavad Gita, we work in such a way that it is a karma-free life. No karma at all. We work in that consciousness that I am performing my whatever work it might be. Maybe I'm a nurse, I'm a doctor, I'm an IT specialist, whatever, I'm a teacher, whatever profession it may be. But the consciousness is that I'm performing this as my prescribed duty for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. And I have no desire to really enjoy those the results of my activities. And to do that, a person needs expert guidance, just like we need guidance in any sphere of life, anything we want to learn. So if we get guidance and we act diligently, very important, we act diligently and live our life in such a way that it's not just eat, sleep, and be merry. We go beyond that. We use our philosophical intelligence to understand what is the value of human life? What is the purpose of human life? Why am I suffering? How can I break this cycle? So all these questions, they will be answered as we go on learning this Bhagavad Gita systematically. Now, in the very next verse, number 10, excuse me, Krishna says, in the beginning of creation, the Lord of all creatures sent forth generations of men and demigods, along with sacrifices for Vishnu, and blessed them by saying, be thou happy by this yagna or sacrifice, because its performance will bestow upon you everything desirable for living happily and achieving liberation. Very simple process it is. The creation is made for us so that we purify ourselves and go back to the spiritual world where there are no miseries at all. It's a very happy, peaceful atmosphere. No miseries at all. Then Krishna says that if we understand this, then we will not remain forgetful of our position. Right now, because of the conditioning, based on which mode we are operating, whether it is ignorance, passion, or goodness, these modes of material nature, they affect our consciousness. And so we get conditioned. What is the conditioning? Conditioning is, I am this body, I'm the enjoyer, I am the controller, I'm going to live forever, all that conditioning. And in that conditioning, we forget our true identity, that we are spirit souls, we are spiritual beings having human experience right now. And we forget our eternal position. In the 15th chapter, we will learn, Krishna says, Vedes cha sarver aham eva vedyo vedanta krit veda vid eva chaham. Krishna says, I am the compiler of the Vedas, and I am to be known from the Vedas. So the purpose of, so Bhagavad Gita is the essence of all the Vedic literatures. So what do we learn from that? We learn to understand who is God. And the scriptures tell us Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. So the purpose of learning is to know who is the Lord, who is the protector. He is showing us in this chapter how we should perform our sacrifices, because when we perform sacrifices according to his instructions, then brings about purity, that brings about happiness and peace. So if we want to live our lives without any anxiety, then Bhagavad Gita is the answer. In fact, Krishna, about 540 years ago, he came as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He came as a devotee to show us that this is how we need to behave. This is what we need to chant. This is how we need to perform our work, so that at the end of this life, we can break this cycle of birth and death, which we've been going on and on again and again, and go back to the spiritual world. And he gave us a medicine. See, the Lord is the creator. We are his children. So Krishna, he knows what ailments we have because he's the supreme doctor, and he's given us the medication for our ailment. What is our ailment? That I am this body. That is the very first ailment we have, that I'm going to live forever. So when we have all these different ailments, then he has come to give us the medication to remove that disease of illusion, right? That is the reason every class I, talk about mantra meditation, because that is the medicine. When we take that medicine, supposing I have very high fever and I'm complaining, oh, I have high fever, my body is aching, my head is aching, what should I do? What should I do? And then the doctor says, well, here's a medication to remove your fever, to remove your infection. And I continue to say, oh, I am having such high fever, but I'm not doing anything about it. Then that's not going to help me at all. The fever is not going to go down. All I need to do is take the prescription of the doctor, take the medication, and then I will myself notice the fever going down, and then I am healthy back again. So the medicine for us in this age is chanting the holy names of the Lord. Let's see what he says in verse number 11. He says, the demigods, being pleased by sacrifices, will also please you. And thus, by cooperation between men and demigods, prosperity will reign for all. Now, who are these demigods? According to the dictionary, Oxford Dictionary, if you look up the meaning of God, it talks about singular, a single person. God is someone who has no one equal to him, no one above him. That is Supreme Lord. So obviously anyone else below God cannot be called God. So they are called demigods. They are actually administrators, just like in the office, we have the CEO, then we have finance manager, marketing manager, HR manager. We have different administrators who run the company on behalf of the CEO. CEO is kind of doing the supervisory, duty, but the main thing is run by the administrator. So here, these administrators called the demigods, they are empowered administrators. They are the ones who give us the light, the air, the water, everything, whatever is required to maintain this body. So that demigods are considered like assistants, and some sacrifices according to the Vedas, those sacrifices are performed to to satisfy these demigods. But these demigods, they actually are worshiping Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna is the chief beneficiary. When we go to chapter 5, which is also called Karma Yoga, action in Krishna consciousness, the very last verse, it is says, Bhoktaram Yagna Tapasam Sarva Loka Maheshwara. Maha Ishvara. Maheshwara means Maha Ishvara. Ishvara and then Maha. That means Krishna is the Maha Ishvara. He's the God, Supreme Lord of all, including the demigods. So when sacrifices are performed, the demigods are pleased and then they supply the daily necessities that we need, the sunlight, the air that we breathe. All this is provided by the demigods. So what is the purpose of sacrifice? The reason sacrifices are needed are, first of all, it's a form of austerity, and austerity is necessary. And it also gives purification, it purifies. Just like, when we eat, if we offer what we are eating, whatever we eat before eating, if we offer it to the Supreme Lord, that food becomes sanctified. And that food, sanctified food, which is called prasadam, that purifies our senses, our mind, our intelligence, our finer brain tissues. There are 4 billion cells in the brain. They all get purified just by eating sanctified food, which is called prasadam. So this is the process that Krishna is explaining about how sacrifices need to be performed. But the summary of all the sacrifices is mantra meditation. That is the very first step. Let's see what he says in verse number 12. We'll do up to 16 today, if there is time. Text 12. In charge of the various necessities of life, the demigods, being satisfied by the performance of yagna or sacrifice, will supply all necessities to you. But he who enjoys such gifts without offering them to the demigods in return is certainly a thief. Krishna is saying, if we do not offer back, then we are considered a thief, because everything belongs to the Supreme Lord. Nothing belongs to us. We came empty-handed and we are going to go empty-handed. Nothing belongs to us. Yes, we do claim that, this is my house, of course, technically we have to say, yes, this is my house or this is my spouse. We cannot say this is everyone's spouse, but we have to understand the consciousness should be everything belongs to the Supreme Lord and it should be used in his service. Let me give you an example. I'm using this laptop today, right? Laptop is a material thing, but I'm using it to broadcast the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. So what happens? This laptop becomes spiritualized. It's being used in the service of the Supreme Lord. So we need to try and see how we can use everything in our lives for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. And here when he's talking about demigods, actually demigods, they are authorized to supply, they are the supplying agents of Krishna. And all sacrifices, whatever are performed to satisfy demigods, the demigods offer it back to Krishna because everything belongs to him. Everything comes from him and everything goes back to him. We cannot manufacture, things like we cannot manufacture water or air, these necessities of life. No, they are provided to us by Krishna. We cannot live without water. We cannot live without air, right? If I tell you, take a deep breath and keep holding. For how long? We need to exhale and then we need to inhale immediately back. So that we can live. So air is also very, very important. So these are necessities of life. They are all provided by Krishna. And so we are dependent on Krishna. So the proper use would be to use it in his service, and that is self-realization. But if we use it for our sense enjoyment, just to enjoy this life, then we become bound. There is bondage, and then there is birth, and again suffering and death, and there is birth again, and the cycle just keeps going on and on and on. So in this verse, Krishna is saying, don't be a thief, because thieves are never happy. thieves get punished. They have to suffer. So here we get very good knowledge from Krishna. And then he says, very, very important instruction in text number 13, which is Yagna Shishchashina Santo Muchyante Sarvakilvishe Bhunjate Tve Agham Papam Ye Pachyanti Atma Karana. What does it mean? Krishna says the devotees of the Lord are released from all kinds of sins because they eat food which is offered first for sacrifice, which means that food has first to be offered to the Lord before consuming it. And he says, others who prepare food for personal sense enjoyment verily eat only sin. Very clear. So now if we want to lead a sin-free life, then here is one process, one very important tip that Krishna is giving, that if we do not offer our food to the Lord, then we are eating only sin. Now, later on in other chapters, we will learn what are the things that can be offered to Krishna. It's not that he accepts everything. No, he is very specific about what can be offered to him. Just like I buy a new car and I don't read the owner's manual, and then I need to fill gas. I just go there to the gas station and I put diesel in. My car is not working. What's wrong? What's wrong? The wrong gas. Instead of diesel, I had to put the regular gas. I did not read the manual. I filled the tank with diesel, and that particular car does not work on diesel. Similarly, this body is given to us by the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. He has designed it in such a way that there is only certain type of food items that can go inside this body. You see, if we do not provide what is necessary, we feed the body with something that it is not designed for, then there's going to be an imbalance. So here we just get an idea that we need to first offer our food to avoid any reaction. No, because if we do not, then it's sinful, and every action has a reaction. So if it's a sinful action, obviously the reaction is going to be sinful. So why should we eat only sin? We need to get purified. So this is a way that we can purify ourselves by eating sanctified food. Let's see what he says in verse number 14. All living bodies subsist on food grains, which are produced from rains. Rains are produced by performance of yagna or sacrifice, and yagna is born of prescribed duties. Again, we need to perform prescribed duties. Now, one may question, I don't know what's my prescribed duty. What should I do? We need to approach a teacher who can gauge our personal situation, family situation, work situation, our consciousness, in what mode we are operating. And then that teacher can guide us on what should be our prescribed duty. Like I inquired from my spiritual teacher, what should be my prescribed duty, so that if I know what it is, then I can act accordingly. So we need to inquire. And Krishna, he is actually the supreme spiritual teacher. So if we can understand his instructions in the Bhagavad Gita and get some guidance from a spiritual teacher, then we will be on the right track. So here he's saying that, our bodies, they subsist on food grains, which is a fact. And these food grains are produced from rains. And how does the rain come about? It comes only when there is performance of sacrifice. And the recommended sacrifice for this age called Kali Yuga is mantra meditation, chanting the holy names of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So this is how we can perform the sacrifice for this age. So when we will do that, and when we will eat food grains which are first offered to the Lord, then the body will actually get humanized. Like now, COVID situation, people are keen on getting vaccination, so we get immunized from all contamination by eating sanctified food, right? So the vaccine is a solution for epidemic. So similarly, sanctified food is the vaccine for illusion. So if anyone is in illusion, or in the words of Bhagavad Gita, it's called Maya, then one can get vaccinated or get immunity from Maya, just by performing this sacrifice of chanting the holy names of the Lord. Because if we do not offer our food, then we are eating only sin, which means taking on more and more reactions. Verse number 15. Regulated activities are prescribed in the Vedas, and the Vedas are directly manifested from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Consequently, the all-pervading transcendence is eternally situated in acts of sacrifice. So we have heard that Vedas are very vast. It's not possible for anyone to read all the Vedic literatures in one lifetime. That's very vast. But we know that Vedas have codes of working directions. Just like when we are, those of us, like for instance, I'm living in the state of Georgia. So there are state laws. So the citizens need to abide by the state laws. So similarly, we being the spiritual beings, belonging to the Supreme Lord, we need to follow his laws, the Supreme Lord's laws, which are mentioned in the Vedas. They are mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita also. Let's do the last verse for today, number 16. My dear Arjuna, one who does not follow in human life the cycle of sacrifice thus established by the Vedas certainly leads a life full of sin. Living only for the satisfaction of the senses, such a person lives in vain. Such a powerful, very powerful verse, right? Very powerful verse indeed. So here, just living, just many people say, oh, I live just to eat. No, it should be the other way around. We should eat so we can live and we can perform our prescribed duties. That is how it should be. So just enjoying the senses, living life, how I can see something beautiful, hear something nice. There's nothing wrong. But we need to know how to control these senses. If just, trying to satisfy senses all the time, then that's wasting human form of life. That's living in vain, very risky. According to the Vedic scriptures, there are 8.4 million species of life. This is mentioned in the scriptures, and this is actually given in Padma Purana. The Puranas that are there in Padma Purana, it tells us 8.4 million species of life, out of which aquatics are 900,000, birds 1 million species. Now it's not talking about what you call population, not the number, but the species. So birds 1 million species, animals 3 million species, trees 2 million species, insects 1.1 million, and human species only 400,000. That's it, the smallest number. So when we do not follow the instructions and keep coming back into the cycle of birth and death again and again and again, we have no guarantee that the next life is going to be of a human being. Krishna says, yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyachat ante kalevaram tam evati kantaya sadatad bhava bhavitaha. He says Whatever one thinks at the time of death, to that state one will attain without fail. Now one may say, let me eat, sleep, and be merry all my life. And then at the time of death, I'm going to think of God and go back to the spiritual world. Is it going to happen? I don't think so. If the child is not going to study all throughout the year, it's not going to pass the final examination because the child has not studied at all. So if we lead our lives according to the Bhagavad Gita, then at least we are guaranteed to have a human form in the next life. But an intelligent person would want to break the cycle, not waste this human form of life, which we have got after going through all those different species of life. Now, in the other species like aquatics, birds, animals, trees, insects, they all go through the evolutionary cycle. They don't have to face any karmic reactions. It's only the human beings that have to face the reactions of their activities or actions, you can say. So if we misuse our minute independence that we have, then it'll be very difficult for us to break this cycle of birth and death. So self-realization means we need to understand karma yoga, jnana yoga, bhakti yoga from Bhagavad Gita, and then that will, with that knowledge, when we put it into practice, so there is theory and then there is practicals. So when we put that into practice, then purification will take place. And when purification takes place, then whatever sacrifices we are performing, we will be doing it in the consciousness of Krishna. So Bhagavad Gita is teaching us systematically how to use this human form of life. Take Bhagavad Gita as an owner's manual for this machinery, which is called the body, this human body. Use it, use the spiritual science of Bhagavad Gita and operate this machinery in such a way that all these instructions become easy. And just by, doing just the very first step of mantra meditation, everything else will fall in place, everything else. But then it's going to be purification of the heart, unwanted things from the heart will go away, like lust, anger, greed, pride, envy, jealousy, whatever it may be, in whatever degree it may be, that all will be cleansed out of the heart. And then we will realize our true identity, that we are spirit souls. Right now, we know it theoretically, but how do we understand it practically? How do we realize it? That is possible by mantra meditation. So what I will do is we will chant for a few minutes like we do after every class. So my humble request is please chant with me. I'm going to put it in the chat box, all the links, and also the Hare Krishna mantra that we will chant for a few minutes. But before that, I have an announcement to make. By Lord's mercy, I'm able to go to India on this Sunday. So I'm going to go not just to India, I'm going to go to Vrindavan, the holy place where Lord Krishna appeared 5,000 years ago. So I want to go there because from tomorrow onwards, for 1 month, it's considered a very auspicious month. It's called Kartik, month of Kartik. And the Supreme Lord is so merciful. He has given us a benediction that whoever chants in this 1 month will get results 1,000-fold. So if you chant for 10 minutes, multiply by 1,000 minutes, that is the benefit one would get. So I am planning on going to India, to this holy place, to soak myself in spirituality, to be in association of devotees, to hear, to learn more, and just to soak myself. But I will still have the class from there. Only thing, since I'm traveling, I will not be able to I'll be still, I think, in flight on Tuesday. So I'm just moving the class from Tuesday to Fridays, if that is okay with you all. Instead of Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern time, I will move it to Fridays at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time, because that will be 5 o'clock in the morning in India for me. So, but on a daily basis, I will definitely try to go live on Facebook and show you the holy places, show you the worship, show you the, what's going on, show you the different holy places that I'll visit, and explain to you the in fact, give you knowledge about what I'm visiting, what is that place, what is the significance of that place. So I will definitely try very hard to do that on a daily basis. Facebook Live on that same page. So I'm going to put the link. Excuse me. So I'm going to put the link of, everything, the Zoom links. And in the Zoom links, I have already put, starting from October 29, it's going to be Friday evening, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. But for India, it's going to be Saturday morning at 5 a.m. But then there's going to be a time change on 7th November. So for India, the time is going to change to 6 in the morning. So all that information is there. And at the very bottom, you see the mantra meditation, the mantra that I have posted there. So it's my humble request that please chant with me for a few minutes, and you will see how happy and peaceful it will make you. So let's just chant for a few minutes. And after that, if anyone has any questions, you're welcome to ask. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So, as I mentioned, tomorrow, from tomorrow onwards is this special month that is starting, which is called the Kartik month, which is considered the purest of all the 12 months, the purest. And it's very, very helpful in progressing spiritually. So it's my humble request that please chant for a few minutes this mantra, do some meditation, and, so that we can improve our advance spiritually. So if anyone has any questions, you're welcome